Welcome to another episode of the Music City Drive-In, brought to you by the Drive-In Podcast Network. I am your host, Ricky Valera. On today's episode, I sat down with the director and two of the stars of the upcoming Amazon original film, Everybody's Talking About Jamie. We talked about what the film meant to the stars. We talked about what was the inspiration behind Jonathan directing the film, and so much more. I hope you enjoy this interview. I like to kind of open with just an easy one here. Especially for you two. What was it like the first time seeing yourself on the big screen?
Oh wow. It was really, really wild for me. I worked in a cinema when I was 16, sweeping popcorn after the films when the credits were rolling, and used to go in and check that the films were, sharp and that the projector was not playing up during the film. So I got to see a lot of films when I worked at the cinema, and I always talk about how when I used to watch, when I worked in the cinema, it was around the time the Hunger Games films were coming out, and I used to work the midnight screenings and seeing people come dressed up and really excited for the films, and then stealing posters of Jennifer Lawrence's face and putting them under my bed and stuff like that. So for me, it's been this really crazy, sort of unbelievable, undescribable experience that I never really thought would come true. So it's like very crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the first time that I watched it was actually in my house with my dad on my TV like this. And then, so even then it still didn't feel like real. And then we watched it on the big screen with like all the cast and crew, and it was just amazing to watch it with like the most supportive group of people we could get. Like everybody was like cheering and so excited, so I couldn't have had a better first time experience watching it on the big screen.
But every time you do this, you're
still
a bit like, ah.
Slowly, as it gets more and more closer to my songs, my hands just go,
stop me.
You guys got beautiful voices, but I'll touch on that in a little bit. What made you want to adapt it to bring it to the big screen?
Seeing a documentary. There was a documentary on BBC Three over in the UK called Jamie, Drag Queen at 16, about Jamie Campbell, a 16-year-old boy from the northeast of England, from a very working class community, who the opening shot is him getting off a bus in his school uniform and saying directly to camera, "My name's Jamie, I'm going to be a drag queen." And I went, oh, okay, and I was gripped from that moment onwards. And then to actually just watch his journey throughout the hour of the documentary, and to see the love and support of his mom and his mom's best friend, and to watch him navigate how he could announce to his school that he wanted to be a drag queen. And it was clear from the onset that that wasn't about coming out as a gay young man, because he'd already done that. He'd done that by the time he was 14. And then I watched as his community around him created a safe space in which he could do that. And I just thought that was, well, one, beautiful, one, incredibly moving, but two, a story that needed telling, So I took that as my inspiration, and then I'd been living and working in New York for 11 years, so this was me coming back to Britain, and I thought, this is a story I want to tell now. So I went to the theatre in Sheffield, which is my hometown, and said, could I bring this story to this city? And we created Jamie New, as opposed to Jamie Campbell. We placed him in a working class community in Sheffield, and we created a theatre piece. And then around our 10th performance, Warp Films, who have a base in Sheffield, came to see that performance and optioned it as a movie. And it was just a roller coaster from that moment onwards.
Now, in doing my research and seeing some of the notes, it was over a year, I believe, and you had quite a lot of people that you went through to cast this lead role. What was it about Max that said yes?
The initial.
Sorry, Max.
I was like, what was it about me, JB?
the initial thing, and I think that this is with many actors, is the unquantifiable thing. Is the thing you go, there's just a spark, there's just a magic, there's just a something, you can't sometimes just name it. And Shaheen Beg, our casting director, put out a social media call to say anybody who wants to put themselves forward for this can. doesn't matter if you're experienced or no experience, just put yourself forward. And Max sent a little tape, probably no longer than about a minute long, in which he spoke. He didn't act in it. He just told us about himself, and he was sat in his bedroom, saying how much he connected with his story, how much he loved drag, particularly loved Drag Race, had been playing around with makeup and loved doing that, and that he used to dress up, with his sister when he was little, make her play Kaniki to his Rizzo.
That's true.
And I just thought there's some magic in this young person, and we met. We brought him in, and we did go through a lot of auditions. You might call them auditions. I just call them like little
Meetings.
testings. Really, I wanted to make sure for him, because it's important for him that he wasn't made vulnerable, and it was really important for the film that we had. What he then needed was, behind that magic is a skill set, and he arrived with a skill set because he was still at college, but he was in training. He was singing, he was dancing, he was acting. So I just wanted to make sure that all those things he felt secure with, which he clearly did. We put him in a recording studio, so we danced him. I read with him many times, and we put him in drag. And it's a big responsibility to play Jamie. You've got to play a 16-year-old kid who's unafraid of expressing their effeminacy, who can be vulnerable and fierce, and can sing, dance, and rock a pair of heels, and that's a lot, but if you ask me, and I've said this many times, I knew in that initial tape that we found our Jamie. The same with Lauren. She sent in the tape.
Pretty Lauren.
Her process is a little
Good
quicker,
save, there you go.
because we were getting to the
You were running out of options.
We were-
So you thought, we'll have
I remember her coming into a little kind of old dance school in Sheffield.
Yeah.
She climbed up some stairs. This is how I remember it. She might remember it differently. She climbed up some stairs. She had an anorak on with a hood up like this. Like I could hardly see her face. She had a backpack on, and you had to lean forward to hear her speak because she was so quiet. She said, I'm an audition. And it was that tiny. And we sat down. She's going.
That's fantastic.
And
Do you know, that was me trying to be confident. Me being like, okay, you've got to be extroverted, you've got to charm them, and it's still read as like,
I won't even take my hood down. But that afternoon, I sat with Dan Gillespie Sells, our composer, and we read. She was beautiful. I could clearly see beneath all this, and I did ask her to take her anorak off.
I don't remember this.
Beneath all this, I saw a fiercely intelligent young woman, which was really what pretty is. And then she sang for us, and I remember I was sat quite close to Dan, and I could feel his leg starting to touch mine, going, "We found it. This is okay. We're good." So that it was a beautiful experience.
I haven't heard that bit before. Thanks. No, you could have told me then and there. Saved me a lot more auditions.
Yeah, you know what it's like. It's not all There are
Hey,
sometimes-
you had 2 or 3. I had 7. So
Okay, you win.
What's it like in that phone call?
well, he told me himself in the room, which is like a bit unheard of. But I didn't have an agent, so the only way and I was obviously an adult, so they had to communicate with me directly. That was the only way you could tell me, really.
It was lovely. It was lovely to do. I played a little bit of a trick on him because he just read with a few actors previously. We all knew he was going to get the part, and I asked him to come back into the
They
room.
waited right till the end of the day. I'd done a whole day of reading with the potential deans, and yeah.
And so I said, Max, can we do one more thing? And I could see his whole body go.
You went, can we just do some improvisation? And I went, oh no. Oh no. Oh no. I was like, this is where I literally this is where mess it up.
And I said, I'll play Dean. And I remember saying, so, what's it like then? And his face went, what? I said, what's it like then? And he said, what? I said,
God, it's taking me right back, you doing that. Like that. Exactly, like, it's taking me right back. Did you feel me go right back then? I was like,
what's it like to be, cast as Jamie New in this movie? And he went, what? He said, you're joking. You're joking.
I think I swore. Did I swear?
You did swear many times.
I did
You always swear though.
I always swear,
then
sorry.
he kind of ran around the room, skipping a while.
I don't blame him. I mean, that's...
And then he shouted, can I ring my mom?
Yeah, I did.
Which he then did.
Lauren, to you, Pretty is very pivotal in helping Jamie become the person that he's meant to be. How important is that to have friends like that in our lives?
Yeah, I think that it's like indescribably important, not just to have people like that, but to feel just supported in things that you do. As much as Jamie tries to be as confident as possible, it's a very scary thing to like tell people this like vulnerable part of yourself and what you want to be and your aspirations. And Pretty, I'm sure that when he tells Pretty that he wants to be a drag queen, he's not expecting her to go, oh yeah, I love Drag Race. Like she's not from that world. She's the complete opposite of him. But I think the thing is that when you're kind of faced with something you don't know, that the love that she has for Jamie comes before anything. So she learns because she sees how happy it makes him.
That's one thing she mentions, confidence. And in the film, Jamie doesn't lack confidence. Is that you in real life?
I think I would say I'm probably like an extrovert, introvert. Like I flow between the two, depending on how much sleep I've had. But no, I have found through working on this film a courage and a confidence that I didn't have in bucket loads before. I definitely could fake it a lot more, but I definitely am taking that journey every day to step into like my most authentic place and a place that I'm really confident in. But that's taken again, much like Jamie, it's taken a huge amount of friends, collaborators and other artists that I've worked with, like Johnny and Lauren, to like instill that sort of faith in myself and my ability. And I think now that I've done a job that seems so far away from, like, it seems so close to the dreams I've had, I was so determined when I was young to do it, and I was like so focused on that I'd like maybe like pushed away my happiness and not my family because I'm so close to them, but like now I can like pare back and like work on me rather than working on the career, I guess, which has been really nice. So yeah.
Because one thing, going into the movie when I watched it, I knew very little about the film, and I really like to do that going into a film.
Yeah,
no matter
me
what
too. I mean, I'm the same. Yeah.
I don't really like watching trailers. Like, but watching the film, I see Max. You know what I mean? A lot more than I see Jamie in the role, in my opinion. And I've done not stalking, but over the last couple of days preparing for this, kind of looking and seeing where it started to where it is. I felt like you owned the role. You did. You were
Thank you so
magnificent.
much. Thank
you.
you.
Know what I mean? And it blew me away. I felt connected, not just because of the journey and the story that's written, but because of what you did.
Well, that's. I mean, I can take some responsibility for that, but that's like Johnny as a director, like enabled us to pour so much of ourselves into these characters, and although like for me, Jamie has like been quite a transformative role in many ways in terms of I don't look dissimilar to that, but like I'm not blonde, my eyebrows no longer are that plucked. And so like I don't want to be a drag queen, so it's, in many ways it feels quite transformative, but there's so much that we relate to the roles that we were encouraged to really pour ourselves into it, and I think we were open to do that, weren't we, really?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that came across.
It did. It does. Jonathan, to you, what was the most challenging transition from stage musical to film?
You haven't been asked that yet, have you? Which one was the most challenging bit?
For me, I didn't. There's many challenges making a movie. Many. For me, it was the most exhilarating experience of my life and the most terrifying experience of my life in equal measures. But actually, in truth, I found it exhilarating making that shift from stage to screen, because of what the camera can do. You know, the camera can do in a theatre. An audience do a lot of work. They do a lot of work because they fill in all their imagination takes flight. So you're on a stage, but you can take them to the street. You can take them to somebody's home, and you can suggest that. On cinema, you can literally get there. You know, and I came from those streets, and I wanted to depict that community as truthfully and as honestly as I possibly could, because I lived in that world, and my family live in that world. So to have the opportunity through cinema to go to those streets, to have the wides of the vistas of that street, was just amazing. Also, what cinema can do is close up, and you can get right into somebody's soul, into their eyes, and see the complexity of a kid who does on the outside feel confident, but actually on the inside, you know, is actually going through a lot, you know, and trying to work it out, and sometimes that confidence is a bit of a mask, you know, and so and cinema can get right into that complexity with hardly anything, just the soul of the actor. And then also what was fabulous is how it allowed my imagination to fly, because, you know, I could take Jamie's imagination and just run wild, and I loved it, you know, all those kind of pop video-esque things that we played with, and transforming one place into another place through in a fantastical way. I just loved, you know.
Max, to you, there's a certain lyric that's stuck in my head ever since I watched the film, and it's, "I'll keep climbing and climbing over this wall in my head."
Yeah.
What do those lyrics mean to Max?
To me, they mean very simply to keep stepping forward and making shifts, and being open to getting rid of my own self-saboteur, really, simply. I think they mean a similar thing to Jamie, really, you know. That whole song is really interestingly a song, you know, where a character is going, I've built up this wall and I need to take responsibility in many ways to getting rid of it. And, you know, for someone who was so young, 16, to be expressing that so early on, and he knows that, you know, his internal struggle, you know, he has to step forward from that. I think that's such an intelligent thing. I think it shows that Jamie, you know, despite everything that he is and his exuberance, that he is really intelligent. But to me, it means that overcoming that, you know, the imposter syndrome that, you know, many actors have, that I do struggle with sometimes.
Your voice, like, have you always been able to sing like that?
It's
just it's beautiful. I mean, obviously both of you guys have amazing voices in the film, but
thank you. Yeah,
when did you discover that?
I've kind of never shut up to my dad's annoyance. I've always like sang for fun, and then I got like a little qualification. You can do like little music qualifications in the UK. I don't know if you can do them here as well. So I got one of them like a year before I auditioned in singing. But before that, I hadn't really taken any lessons or done anything like that. So I didn't really call myself a singer before I did this film. But I think I can now because I've done it. So
that's official.
Yeah. I would say so. Definitely.
I'm allowed to now.
Yeah.
One small quick question. What was it like working with Richard E. Grant?
Just amazing, really. He's so much fun. It was obviously a bit daunting, you know, your first day on set. They go like, oh, so your first day is with an Oscar-nominated actor, and you're like, wow.
Cool, sick, yeah.
Yeah, like great.
Day.
Yeah, that was our first day on set, and I was like, wow, okay, here we go. Jump me straight to the deep end. But jump me straight in the deep end. Teeth in. But no, he really just, like Jonathan has said lots, like he just worked, and I got to watch him and observe him, and he never patronised me, and he's so much fun, and he takes his job seriously when he needs to, and is there and is generous for you when the cameras are on, but when the cameras are off, he is an absolute laugh. You know, playing with all the props in the shop, you know, just you know, he said to me once, he was like, you know, we're not doing heart surgery here, we're telling stories, so like don't like deep it too much, you know. And you know, all of that deepness and complexity is in the performance and in the storytelling when it happens, and all of the stuff that happens outside that is just for him and for me fun, and I carried that on, you know, to my other jobs. I was more relaxed knowing in the sense that, you know, actors like Richard still, you know, he said to me about he suffers with imposter syndrome, and, you know, has that duality of, you know, sometimes not feeling like he should be there and sometimes feeling like he should got the role over someone else and all of those things. So he was such a joy to work with, and he's been so incredibly supportive post this film, and, you know, it was so amazing to see him in Loki, being such a huge Marvel fan. Not me promoting Loki, but I was like, he wouldn't tell me anything about it, and I was so excited to see him, and he's been so supportive over my next steps as well, and he will continue to be. I truly believe.
That's awesome.